Before we talk about you, I've got to ask about my guy Hap. How were his holidays?
Hap had some awesome holidays. This was actually the first year in the last 5 that I've been home, and we've had a couple days to actually be home, be here, have him come down the stairs, walk down to all of Santa's gifts and all that. Yeah, so it was amazing. The last couple of years been on the road, fighting in January's, fighting in December's. So it was nice, getting that fight out of the way, if you will, in November, and he's had a phenomenal holidays.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. I just love seeing all the photos. It honestly makes my day. You mentioned that last fight. I mean, Mike, we're not over it. That was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. When you recall that now in your mind, I mean, what goes through your thoughts?
When you think about, obviously I had a very different road than a lot of guys. I always wanted to be in the UFC, always wanted to fight for the UFC title, always wanted to be number one in the world. I was fighting outside of the UFC for so long. So it's always been my goal to be the number one guy, but I also know that I'm in this sport for a short window of opportunity. I want to go out there and make people feel something. So I think what me and Justin Gaethje did on November 6th made people feel something that night, and we're still feeling it. Obviously I felt it physically for weeks. I'm still feeling it a little bit. But it's been awesome. It's the first time in my career where a loss somehow still feels like a win. Because you legitimize yourself and you go out there, you wear your heart on your sleeve and you go out there and perform. And the way the fans and all of my supporters have embraced it, even it being a loss, makes it feel like a win. So I'm excited for a big year this year. 2022 is going to be a big year. So
yeah, I literally can't, like, whenever I think about that fight, I get chills because it was just so incredible to be a part of. So from going from that into a new year of 2022, Mike, how do you figure out the path that you want this year to take?
It's hard. I was just talking to my manager, Dave. I think the UFC lightweight division is easily one of the toughest, of course, but also one of the most exciting, with so many different matchups and everybody inside the top 5. Obviously you got Conor coming back from an injury. You got Tony Ferguson, who's outside the top 5, but still a guy who's a perennial entertainer. So it's such an entertaining division to be a part of, and it's hard because I want big fights. I want to get close to that title shot again. Obviously, you got Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira primed and ready for both of those guys to fight for the title. I now have in my 3 fights in the UFC, 2 of them have been against the guys now who are going to fight for the title. I think a lot of the fans would love to see me run it back with either of those guys. So I just got to get back in the win column, and I want a big, fun, exciting, entertaining fight. I've been doing this for a very long time, and obviously every fight in the UFC is huge. But definitely, you have to be calculated and really think about what the next move is. But it's going to be a big name on a big card with big title implications no matter what. And I'm going to go out there and do exactly what I do, bite down on my mouthpiece and go out there and try to get a finish.
That's why we love watching you, Mike. In terms of like a time frame, though, like you just said, that was such a huge physical fight for you. I remember seeing both of you guys after the fight thinking, oh my gosh, how are they even standing right now? So how much time does your body need before you can start jumping back into a real serious training camp?
I definitely want some time off. Of course, man, this is, as we talk about that short window of opportunity, me as a fighter is just going to be a small blip on the radar of this entire life that I'm going to have. And you mentioned Hap earlier. I am a father. I am a husband. I love my life. If I gave up fighting right now, I would be extremely happy with the way my life has gone thus far and where the trajectory in which it's going to pursue moving forward. So of course, health is my number one goal. So I want to take a little bit of time off. I want to spend, a couple months of just rehabbing my body, getting my body back to neutral. Not only was that a tough physical fight, but I signed with the UFC September of 2020. And then in a span of 13, 14 months, made weight 4 different times, traveled across the world, had a title fight, had a fight of the year with Justin Gaethje, was extremely active. I think to the UFC fans, they think I've been signed with the UFC for a very long time. It's still just now 15, 16 months I've been signed with the organization. So I've had an extremely busy last year and a half. So I want to take a little bit of time off, serve my family here in Nashville, do a little bit of travel and enjoy my life a little bit and get myself back to neutral. But I think an early summer return would probably be great. Get back in the training camp in the next 2 months or so with an adequate amount of rest and recovery. and put on a great show for the fans.
Well, before we move into that, I just want to tell you that's such a beautiful way to think about things, and such a healthy way to look at your life as a whole. So it's really refreshing to hear athletes speak like that. So, Mike, I'm really happy to hear you say those things. But in terms of the preparation and the training, you train with one of the best camps in the entire world at Sanford MMA. I know you've got such high level training partners and coaches, and it just seems to be a great vibe down there. For you, when you step foot in Sanford, what is the best thing about training there in South Florida?
I just think, no matter what, when you step inside that room and you are coached by the coaches and you're training alongside the training partners, you feel like a champion when you walk into that room. And that's what I try to instill in these younger guys every single day. I've been in the sport now for a decade and a half, almost, trained on the East Coast, West Coast, everywhere in between. And in my humble opinion, of course, and very biased opinion, Sanford is the best facility, the best coaching staff, and the best stable of training partners that you could possibly ask for. So I want these young guys to understand what they have, and it's not something to be taken lightly, and it's definitely never something to be taken for granted, because I've trained in a lot of different places. So you just feel like a champion when you walk into the room, from the atmosphere, both physically with the people that you're around, but also just the way Sanford looks, the way it smells, the way it is optically. You walk in and you know that you're in a high-level training facility with guys who have been there and done that. Our head coach, Henry Hooft, who has been in dozens and dozens of world title fights. We've had multiple guys on our team fight for world titles or in title contention in numerous organizations. So that's just what we attract, and greatness attracts greatness. And I'm extremely blessed to be a part of that team. Obviously, I need to pull myself away from it a little bit, because when I get down there, I just grind myself to the bone, 3 times a day, and my body can't handle it. So I need to take a little bit of time off and spend some time here in Nashville with the family. But you just feel like a champion when you walk into the room, and it's something that can't really be explained unless you are a fighter pursuing greatness there. And it's awesome to be a part of.
Mike, you mentioned the younger guys, and it seems like you've kind of taken on this mentor role for some of them. Specifically, a guy I'm thinking about is Ian Garry. I mean, how and why did that come about? Is that something you cognizantly wanted to do, or is it something that you just fell into?
I mean, I think it was a little bit of both. I didn't know he was coming to the gym until he showed up, and then we had a couple conversations, and then, man, I was like, okay, obviously the talent is there. His body type, his confidence in himself, the part of the world that he comes from. He's a young, brash Irishman who does not lack confidence in any area of his life. And that's something that I'm attracted to as well. Even as a 35-year-old, a guy who's been in the game for a decade longer than he has, I still try to remember myself as that young, hungry, nothing to lose kind of guy. And I think my fight style shows it. My attention to detail shows it, because I want to live a champion lifestyle. And it's just awesome to see these guys come in. And even Ian himself, I think his game is on a trajectory to the moon. I think he will be world champion in the next couple of years, or fighting for a world title in the next couple of years. So, you just got to keep your nose to the grindstone and keep just listening to the coaches. The most underrated skill in mixed martial arts is just being coachable. Showing up is half the battle. And then the other half of the battle is, of course, being tough and being technical and being good with your physical skills. But just be willing to be molded by our great coaching staff, being molded by having an open ear and an open mind to a guy like me who's, been there, done that in a lot of ways, but also I don't know everything, but you have an open mind, and he has that. And I think he's really enjoyed and taken advantage of everything that we have at Sanford. And as I said, I believe he'll be fighting for a world title in the next couple of years. Ask him that, he'll tell you, and ask a lot of the guys that we train with, and they'll tell you the same thing.
What makes you say that with such confidence?
I mean, I think there's certain guys that come into the sport and you think there's these set of boxes that can be checked, right? And some guys have one or two of them, but they lack in the other couple. And then a lot of them have probably the most kind of obvious ones: the physical attributes, the body type, the youth, the amount of fights and competition that they've had, but maybe they lack the confidence, maybe they lack the mental fortitude and the coachability and the moldability. I think Ian checks all of those boxes. Now, that doesn't mean he is guaranteed on a road to the title, because anything can happen in this sport. You've been following it for such a long time, and you've seen the way we all, saw so many people on their way to thinking they're the next big thing, and then they don't make it. And then some guy who's a diamond in the rough who we never even thought about, like a guy like Charles Oliveira, who had such a crazy up and down. A lot of people wrote him off. He probably wrote himself off a couple times. And then now here he is, our undisputed lightweight champion. So in a sport that is so tumultuous, and it is long and it's arduous and it's tough on the body, if your body can withstand it, and then if your mind can withstand it, you're going to eventually find success. You just have to be there long enough to continue to put one foot in front of the other. And I think Ian checks all of those boxes. And now, if we were just speaking about Ian Garry, who was training somewhere over in Ireland, or he chose one of these other training camps, I'd be saying, okay, I think that guy's got a pretty good shot somewhere down the line. But seeing him inside the room, sharing the same room with him, being in those conversations with, in my opinion, the greatest coaches in the world, in my opinion, the greatest training partners in the world, it's just the compounding effect of day after day of getting after it extremely hard, but then also being smart and listening to veterans like myself, Robbie Lawler, some of these guys who've been in the game for so long. It's a recipe for success, and I think he checks all the boxes.
Mike, as you're telling me just about, you know, the training and the teammates and the coaches, I can feel your passion through the computer screen. What for you is the driving motivation? Like you said, you've been doing this for like 15 years at the very highest levels. What makes you still get up and want to continue to work this hard?
You know, I haven't lost that hunger at all. And I also haven't lost the gratitude for how far I've come and what I have accomplished and what I still have left to accomplish, to someday have interviews like this or highlights like I've had, and all these different brush strokes on this masterpiece that someday my son and future children, people, my biggest supporters, my biggest fans can watch and see the way that I live my life. Because I was just a small guy from a small town who never thought I would make more than a middle-class income, never thought I would ever be on a stage where people would listen to me, people would see me, that I would be in the public eye. So I think I wake up every single morning with a gratitude that I've accomplished so much coming from so little, and then realizing that I still have so much left to accomplish. And I still have that hunger every single day. And then having huge opportunities, even when I lose a fight like Justin Gaethje, or even when I lose a fight, a world title fight in the UFC, that just gives you even more of an edge, gives you even more of a hunger. And I think as of right now, at this moment, after the year that I've had and me coming in and proving myself in the UFC, and now the platform that the UFC has afforded me with, that I'm extremely grateful for, it opens my mind up to so many more possibilities. So I'm just excited for big fights, big opportunities, and continue to show people that even if you're a small guy from a small town who was taught to do small things, if you, as I've said, put one foot in front of the other, you work hard, you try to be a good human being, eventually hard work will pay off.
Fighter or not, athlete or not, those are words that every person can really take something from. Mike, I just appreciate every time I get to chat with you. I feel like I leave our interviews always in a good mood because you always have something positive to say. We're so looking forward to your 2022, but I hope you enjoy this downtime with the family in Nashville. You have earned every single second of it. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll see you at the top.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.